Welcome to Bible for Modern Minds podcast.
Today, we've compiled just an incredibly challenging and deeply personal stack of source material.
It's really something else. A raw, decade-spanning testimony.
Yeah, it tracks one man's search for identity, for worth. But, what we're really digging into is this stunning psychological paradox that emerges.
What's that?
How does finding complete freedom, the idea of ultimate self-reliance, how does that trigger a paralyzing anxiety? It leads to this massive breakdown that's, it's only fixed when he admits he's powerless.
That is the core nugget, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sources show this. The cyclical journey, it starts with this foundational trauma, moves to an intense spiritual search.
Right.
Then this zealous, super productive awakening, only to be followed by a crisis that was, nearly fatal, all fueled by the anxiety of achievement. He even calls it professional Christianity.
So our mission today is really to unpack that cycle for you. We want to focus on that moment he realizes his constant striving, all that outward productivity. It wasn't securing his worth.
No, far from it. It led him to a total spiritual and emotional collapse.
Exactly. And that true transformation, it turns out, required this dedicated, often really painful inner work, not just doing more stuff.
I think we can structure this whole complex story into maybe 5 distinct phases. You have the foundational trauma, then the spiritual detours, the radical conversion, then that crushing productivity trap.
And finally, the healing.
And finally, the slow, painful process of inner healing. So let's start at the beginning.
Right. The foundation, it's all set in a really chaotic childhood. His father, who was a smart kid himself, moves to L.A., gets involved with gangs in Compton, and eventually, drugs lead to his parents splitting up. So our speaker, he grows up in a single-parent household with this huge vacuum where a male role model should have been.
And that vulnerability, it just creates this deep identity wound, which is then compounded by some really specific abuses.
Yeah, the sources they're tough to read. He was severely punched by a man his mother was dating.
So violent that his mother had to, grab and break dishes over the man's head just to make him stop.
Yeah. And then later, he was sexually molested by a babysitter.
Just awful.
That kind of instability just made him feel unwanted, worthless. So by middle school, he's already, troublesome. He gets arrested for stealing.
And the ultimate breaking point, it comes when he's about 16, right?
Right. His mother, just totally exhausted, says to him, "You're acting like your dad, and this is why I left him."
Wow. That's lethal.
Lethal is the word. It basically confirmed his deepest fear, that he was just fundamentally bad. He reacts by punching and shattering a glass table. It says he immediately just wanted to die.
And his mother, in just complete desperation, she leaves a Bible outside his door, even though she herself was more of a free thinker, a Buddhist.
His response, immediate rebellion. He just rips the pages out.
And that rejection, that act, it just fuels this chaotic external search for worth. The logic is, if I don't have internal value, I'll go out and acquire it.
And the sources detail the 3 main arenas he looks for it in. First, promiscuity in women trying to fill this void.
And power and money. Selling drugs, stealing, because he wanted, in his words, a sense of power.
And finally, achievement. Trying to be the best.
Yeah.
In sports, in rap battles, anything to earn some respect.
This relentless searching, though, it hits its first, let's call it a detour, around age 18 with a really striking spiritual event.
Yeah, this is fascinating. He has an incredibly vivid dream of flying over a golden dome where people are worshiping.
And the twist is, he sees the exact same building later. Not in a vision, but in a library geography book.
The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem.
Exactly. And he takes this as a divine sign. God is speaking to him.
So his conclusion is that God must be Allah. He starts studying the Quran, but the sheer number of rules, it just overwhelms him.
He said the pursuit felt too hard. He's constantly doing this spiritual calculation.
Right. How do I know if my good outweighs my bad? It just felt hopeless to him.
So he just declares, I'm done. And he subscribes to atheism.
And this is where that core paradox really comes to life. He's talking with another atheist who just lays out the position. There's just us. We're responsible for our future.
The irony is just.
Oh.
It's so profound. For someone who was desperately seeking control but was raised in chaos, this wasn't liberating at all.
No, it triggered this immense, paralyzing anxiety. He felt, and I'm quoting, "I am not capable of controlling my own life and my destiny."
So the idea that everything depended solely on his own fragile competence was actually a heavier burden than any religion.
Yeah, the panic sends him right back to numbing the pain, drinking, getting high. But he's desperate for some kind of structure, so he walks into a church, totally clueless about the culture. And this lady comes up to him and asks, "Young man, are you saved?" He thought she just meant, are you super religious?
But she prays for him, and it sticks with him.
It does, and that very night, the dream returns. Same Dome of the Rock, but this time the rocks rise up, they form a basket holding a child, and the child's face becomes the face of a man.
A very clear connection to the nativity story.
Absolutely. But despite this, he has a wild summer, STDs, an arrest, depression. But then, out of nowhere, he gets a full college scholarship.
So he starts going to a campus Bible study, not out of faith, but just desperation for anything.
He felt totally lost, thinking, who is Jeremiah? What are all these random stories?
But he keeps going, which leads him to a Christian conference in Atlanta. And he's pretty honest that his main motivation was the city and, frankly, the girls.
Yeah, but when he gets there, he's just shocked. He was expecting the stiff, suited, white-gloved Christianity of his grandmother.
But instead, he sees people who looked regular.
Yeah.
Dressed like him.
And that just cracked the door open for him. The thought was, if they can be Christian, maybe I can be Christian. He declared himself a Christian right then.
But here's a really critical distinction the sources make. His initial faith was all about activity and culture, not real understanding.
Right. A friend pulls him aside and says something incredibly wise. He says, "I think you have faith, but not a saving faith."
And what he meant by that, to put it simply, was, you believe God exists, sure, but have you really grappled with the depth of the message?
He was furious at first, but the seed was planted. And the climax comes on the last night. The pastor is explaining the gospel. Jesus lived the perfect life he couldn't and died the death he deserved.
And he ends with this piercing question. Do you not know you were bought with a price?
And that's when the lights came on. He feels this profound, deep remorse. He realizes his worth wasn't something he had to achieve. It was already established.
He describes an overwhelming sense of joy. He's walking the streets of Atlanta, just giving away all his expensive jewelry as cash to homeless people. He was finally free from that burden of earning his own value.
And he just launches into this new life with what he called a speedboat level of zeal.
1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, immediately types up his testimony, starts sharing it all over campus.
And this is where we can trace the first 3 stages he talks about in the Christian journey. Stage 1, awakening God is real. Stage 2, development learning everything, just consuming scripture. And stage 3, productivity preaching, serving, volunteering. And he mastered all 3 almost overnight.
The achievements were massive. Campus ministry, his music starts spreading from campus to the city, then the state.
And by age 30, he's touring globally. He even moves his family to this really dangerous neighborhood in Memphis just to serve, a place where 13 people were murdered in 3 years.
So this is maximum productivity, maximum external output.
Absolutely. And yet, the wall he eventually hits wasn't because of external failure. It was the contradiction he saw inside his own success.
On the big tours.
On the big tours, he saw what he called professional Christianity. People on stage with this public persona of deep piety, but who were just lukewarm, even hypocritical behind the scenes.
And that just messed him up badly.
It caused his soul to go numb because he started using this dangerous new standard for comparison. As long as I'm not as bad as them, I'm good.
And that comparison game, it just destroys the foundation of your inner life, doesn't it? It replaces sincere faith with public performance.
It does. And that performance led to a really slippery slope. He started drinking heavily, something he didn't think Christians did. He's this pioneering Christian rapper, so he's caught between 2 worlds.
Criticism from the church for being too political, and then temptations from his secular collaborators, strip club invitations, all of it.
So 13 or 14 years in, the total collapse begins.
His marriage is falling apart, tense, no communication, just 2 ships passing in the night. He admits he was actually glad to be on the road.
And the only reason he didn't get a divorce was his popularity. He felt he couldn't sin so publicly.
At the same time, the external scrutiny just intensifies. His social commentary brings all this backlash, this hate from fans, from leaders.
And that criticism just brought back that painful childhood feeling of being unwanted and rejected.
So to cope, he numbed. He started drinking more, got Xanax bars from a sketchy doctor, and was living this painful double life. smoking and drinking with secular rappers while trying to keep up his public image.
And the ultimate low point was the intellectual and spiritual disillusionment. When prominent Christian leaders publicly turned on him, he was so hurt, so confused.
He just gave up. He told his wife and friends, "I don't think Christianity is real," and he even stopped doing Bible study with his own kids.
So he's right back to his worst nightmare, that purposelessness of his teenage years.
The panic returned. If I'm just a cosmic accident, then I don't matter.
He just retreated completely into pills and alcohol.
The sources say his team would find him passed out in front of the tour bus and have to carry him to his bunk. The crisis wasn't a loss of belief, but the realization that all his doing had failed to heal that abandoned child inside him.
The productivity machine was just empty.
Completely empty. The descent gets to its deepest point when he wakes up one morning, just numb, paranoid, seeing the world through a gray filter. He's in a severe clinical depression. He wants to die every day.
In that moment of absolute crisis,
Yeah.
it comes when he's sitting in his Mercedes in the garage. The engine's running. He wants to close the door.
But he doesn't. And what stops him is the image of his children finding his body. He just couldn't do that to them.
That night, he confesses to his wife, "I'm in a dark place and I just need some help."
And that very night, he has another dream. He hears a voice with astonishing clarity just say, "I never left you."
That message of unconditional pursuit, that he was being sought out even in his darkest moment, it led him back to that scripture where Jesus asks Peter, "Do you love me? Feed my sheep."
He finally got it. His calling was unconditional. It wasn't based on his success. It was based on God's pursuit of him.
So the healing begins. He and his wife go on these recovery trips looking for tangible reassurance.
Yeah.
On a trip to Egypt, an archaeologist who claims to be an agnostic
Right.
provides secular historical evidence of a pharaoh letting slaves go, confirming the biblical accounts. He took this as physical confirmation, like God saying, "I told you I'm here."
And then comes this truly, breathtaking Jonah moment.
It's unbelievable.
He's in Mexico. He's battling suicidal thoughts, reading the book of Jonah, the story of the man swallowed by a great fish, and he looks out at the ocean.
And he sees, against all laws of physics, water vertically rising up into the sky, and then a massive whale emerges from that water spout.
Seeing that right as he's reading the parallel story,
Yeah.
it just broke him down. It was this unmistakable sign of God's presence, maybe even God's sense of humor.
And this dramatic intervention, it showed him what was missing. He'd mastered awakening, development, and productivity. But he was missing the crucial fourth stage, inner work.
And sanctification.
And sanctification. And for you, the listener, sanctification is just that slow, often painful process of becoming righteous, of letting the Spirit change your nature, not just doing the right things.
He realized he couldn't just zeal his way out of the hole. He had to let go of self-reliance. He found an incredible therapist who loves Jesus and began the deep work of healing that abused, abandoned little boy he once was.
And this foundational healing, it leads to his fifth stage, living a life of love.
Which means shifting the focus entirely away from reputation, fame, achievement.
Exactly. And toward that constant, tedious internal work necessary to simply love people and to receive love, the way he was loved unconditionally. His identity wasn't in his achievements anymore. It was in the fact that, as he quotes from Psalm 23, "Goodness and mercy shall pursue you." God chased him down.
So what's the key wisdom he'd give that younger, zealous self, the guy in the speedboat heading for burnout?
He said, "The Christian journey is not a mountain to be climbed. It's peaks and valleys."
And crucially, you cannot zeal your way out of a valley.
You can't. You have to depend on the Spirit of God and seek wise, older guidance, which is something he just didn't have during his peak years.
So for you, the listener, especially if you're struggling with that pressure of self-reliance in our modern world, the final image is just. It's so powerful. He learned he needed to show his scars because, as he put it, scars are the evidence that wounds can heal.
He finally sees himself not as a failed product, but as a broken instrument that God makes beautiful music with.
So consider that thought. What beautiful music might be hidden in your own brokenness once you prioritize that difficult work of inner healing over just external performance. Thank you for diving duck with us today.